So there are three reasons why people wind up getting burnt out of collecting video games. And the first is lack of balance, the second is lack of focus, and the third is lack of purpose. And these are in no particular order, but I want to talk about them here for anyone who's struggling with whether or not they should start collecting video games, whether they should stop collecting video games, or anywhere in between. I first want to talk about lack of balance. A lot of people confuse consistency or being consistent with being constant. Being consistent doesn't mean that you have to constantly be picking up video games, buying video games, or playing video games. But being consistent means that you've developed a routine, whether it be for collecting video games or playing video games, and you are consistent with that routine. And that routine could be as little as an hour of playing video games per month or per week, or maybe only going out and game hunting or game collecting maybe 2 to 3 days per month. Whatever your consistency routine is, that's the routine that you set for yourself based on your collecting goals, which kind of leads me into the second one, which is lack of focus. A lot of people come into video game collecting wanting to collect everything. They want to collect every video game for every system, for every genre, for every generation, and you are going to dig yourself into a serious hole, both mentally and financially, if you try to do that. The best way to collect video games, in my opinion, is to start off with a goal, have a focus, concentrate. Whether you want to concentrate on one system, or maybe you want to concentrate on a generation, maybe you want to concentrate only on handhelds, maybe you want to start off only collecting minis. It's going to be different for every person depending on what their tastes are. But when you don't have focus, then you kind of drive yourself crazy trying to collect for everything. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to collect for multiple systems at a time. But even if you're going to do that, I think even that type of collecting should be focused. Are you getting all of the beat 'em ups across all the systems you own? Are you getting all of the RPGs across all of the systems you own? Are you only looking for puzzle games or Nintendo games? There's different ways of being focused, just like there's different ways of developing consistency. But at the end of the day, they all have to work for you in order for you to achieve the third thing, which is most important is helping you kind of identify your purpose. A lot of people don't have a real purpose when it comes to collecting not only video games, but anything for that matter. They don't have a purpose. A lot of times people start collecting because they saw someone else starting to collect, or they start collecting because they think it's a cool thing to do. A lot of times here on YouTube, you'll hear people say that they started collecting video games because they saw people with large YouTube channels and they figured if they started collecting, then their channels would grow too. Those aren't the best, that's not the best way to go about it, because the purpose is outside of yourself. And the purpose then is very dependent upon the outside view of how people view what you're doing, as opposed to how you internally feel about what you're doing for yourself. Everything should come from within, right? Your purpose is within. The reason why you do things should come from within you. It shouldn't be influenced from what's happening outside of you or around you. And when your purpose is based or hinged on other people's view of you, your purpose is constantly going to shift and change, and you're never really going to be able to get grounded in anything that you're doing, because the moment people feel like what you're doing is a waste of time, or the moment you no longer get the attention or appreciation or the accolades that you thought you should be getting for what you were doing, a lot of everything is just going to fall through the cracks, and you're going to lose your purpose, and it's no longer going to be fun or entertaining for you, and it's going to start to feel like work. And to be quite honest with you, you're going to start to feel underappreciated. You're going to feel ignored. You're going to feel like, why am I doing this? And honestly, it's these three things, focus, it's purpose, it's, balance, consistency. I think these things can be applied to a lot of different things, but because this is a gaming channel, we're applying it to the hobby of collecting video games here. 5 years ago, video game collecting was the hottest thing. It was the greatest thing in the world. Everyone was doing it because it was very popular. When you did it, you had a certain sense of belonging. You felt like you were part of a community. And especially if you were a collector and you were here on YouTube, it was great. You post a video, people come, they comment, they share their opinions, they share their thoughts and different things like that. But if you've found yourself in a position where you don't feel like you're getting back what you put into it, all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. And again, this is why I think focus and purpose has to come into play, not just when you're collecting video games, but it could be when you're collecting anything. Right now, Pokemon cards are the next big thing. And you have a lot of people who are walking away from video games and they're going to Pokemon cards. But I could tell you this right now, if you did not have a focus, if you did not have a purpose, if you didn't have balance, if you didn't have consistency in collecting video games, you're not going to have it with collecting Pokemon cards. And once the Pokemon fad and all the Pokemon hype is gone, once that fades away, which Pokemon collecting, Pokemon card collecting, and Pokemon video game collecting will never fully fade away. But once it's no longer as hot as it is right now, you're going to find yourself back at square one in the same position, trying to figure out what's the next thing that you can chase. What's the next thing that you can get into? What's the next thing that you can start to collect? This is why I say a lot of times on my channel, it's really about balance. A lot of times you guys might see me, usually on Sundays, I'll post, what I decided to cook for the weekend or what I cooked that Sunday. Because cooking for me is another great hobby that I really enjoy. And I cook for me, and it helps me to achieve balance so that I'm not just looking at video games all day. Another thing that I like to do is exercise. Another thing that I like to do is run. I like to hike. I like to walk. I like to, read and do different things, and all of that is, kind of underneath spending time with my family, spending time with my kids, and all of those things in between. And when you have balance, meaning when you can step away from video games and go do something else that fulfills you just as much as video games does, it takes a lot of the pressure off of the hobby of video game collecting. Now your happiness or your sadness isn't solely resting on this hobby, and you have other things that you can turn to when game collecting gets boring, when game collecting isn't as fun. And as collectors, we all know there are times when game collecting is more fun than other times, right? You have seasons where you feel like you keep finding banger after banger after banger, or you keep getting deal after deal after deal. And then there are times where you feel like you haven't found anything. You haven't been able to buy anything. Nothing worth your while has shown up in the wild in a long time. And it starts to feel like things are getting dry or getting dead. I've come to learn that collecting, there's an ebb and flow when it comes to collecting video games. And the biggest thing, like I said, is consistency. Being consistent and being constant are not the same thing. Constantly collecting video games is not the key, but consistently collecting video games. Recognizing when you're having a hot streak and then recognizing when you're having a cold streak and knowing, it'll get hot again. Recognizing that ebb and that flow, I think is going to help you set expectations for yourself personally. Your purpose has to come from within. The joy should come from within. The excitement should come from within. It should never be dependent on how other people feel about your collection, how they feel about your collecting strategies, what you've got in your collection, how your game room looks. It shouldn't be based on none of that. It should be all for you. Hobbies are meant for you. They're meant to bring you joy. They're meant to bring you happiness. And I think if you keep these things in perspective, it'll help prevent you from reaching burnout, and it'll help prevent video game collecting from ruining your life, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts on this. I'm interested to know how you guys feel, especially with the collecting scene changing here in 2025. Let me know if any of that makes sense to you. What are some of the strategies you use to avoid getting burnt out from collecting video games? And I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.